Codependency.
Codependency stolen enough from you? It's time to take your life back. I'm your host, Amy Moore, and this is Leave Your Toxic Relationship, where we cut through the lies, confront the patterns, and use God's truth to step into freedom. Did your covert narcissist tell you you have borderline personality disorder and that you need to seek help? Mine did. In this episode, I'll be sharing some examples of the abuse, lies, and manipulation that happen behind closed doors. Hey friends, I'm Amy, a Jesus-loving mama and overcomer, and you're listening to Leave Your Toxic Relationship, where we explore biblical strategies to break free from codependency. Let me set the stage. Lame proposal, crap prenup, and later finding out it was a fake ring. Yes, friends. So here we are. This man comes home one day, and I see in his back pocket a Diamonds Direct envelope. I'm like halfway joking around, and I pull it out of his pocket, and I was like, "What is this?" And he was like, "Oh, it's nothing." Blah blah blah. Fast forward, and a few days later, I cook dinner, I clean up the kitchen, and then he has me come and sit on the bar stool at the island and proposes to me, but doesn't really say a whole lot, just gives me this ring. Of course I was excited. I was like, oh, great, finally. Because a couple years prior, he had taken me ring shopping, bought me a ring, a moissanite, $10,000. It was gorgeous. It was what I wanted, princess cut, and I absolutely love moissanite. I don't care if it's a diamond. So anyways, he bought me this ring a couple years prior and never proposed to me and returned that ring, I found out later. And now he's proposing to me with a ring that's not a princess cut, but still was fine. Anyway, so lame proposal, nothing special. So we start planning our wedding, and we decide that we're going to have an engagement party and surprise our friends at the engagement party and get married. So we're at the place where we're going to have our engagement party, and this all happened pretty quick. We're at the place where we're going to have our engagement party, having dinner, and he hands me a premarital agreement to go over. And I start reading it, and I'm actually got teary-eyed because it was very sad. Like nothing could be in my name. I couldn't have my name on the house. I couldn't have my name on the bills, on the utilities. I couldn't even, right now I'm getting kind of choked up. I couldn't wrap my head around that somebody could be so terrible and want me to feel loved. I just didn't feel loved whatsoever. And he's like, well, you can finish reading it when we go home. And I was like, I think that's a really good idea. So I sat there having dinner at this great place that we're going to have our engagement party at, going over this agreement. And I just felt deflated. I felt neglected. I felt abandoned. I felt so many different emotions. And I just I didn't enjoy the dinner, obviously. And we get back to his house, and I look over it some more. And the more I read it, the more I'm getting into it, the worse it gets. In the end, when he dies, and he's almost 17 years older than me, when he dies, the house goes to his trust. It doesn't even go to me. So I'm like, how does that feel like a home for me? That just doesn't make sense. And after a couple days, he's like, well, it's just a starting point, because he could see that I was pulling away, that definitely wasn't going to be something I would sign. And I said, a starting point would be like, here, this is what I'm offering, and this should be good. But it was absolutely nothing. It was so sad. My boys won't get anything. His trust, everything goes to his and his family. It was terrible. I don't know how anybody could feel loved in that. I couldn't have credit cards. If it was a credit card, if I got a credit card and he didn't know about it, he wasn't going to pay for it. And it's kind of just set the tone for the next little bit. And looking back now, it just all makes so much sense. I was in debt from living off credit cards because I had just gone through a divorce. When we first met, I was his decorator for his new house. I went through a divorce. I was already going through a divorce when I met him, but during that whole time, Like my ex-husband was paying what he was supposed to pay, the $10,000 a month while we were separated and going through our divorce. But as soon as I got divorced, which was July of 2020, he no longer paid the alimony or child support. So from 20 on, I was basically living on credit cards, and my standard of living completely changed. I quit getting hair extensions, I quit getting facials and massages and all the things. But that was more understandable because the guy I was divorcing had turned to drugs and became a drug addict. So the value, my ex valued me. He treated me like a princess. He always took care of me. And then here I have this man who is, oh my gosh, it was just so hurtful. So, anyways, I get an attorney. We start negotiating the premarital agreement. And anytime I'd ask for something, he'd say, well, my attorney says. And I'm like, but you get to decide what goes into the premarital agreement. Like, I'm telling my attorney what I want, and I feel like I'm fighting for the bare minimum, which I was. And so our engagement party's coming up July 20th of 2024, and I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot get married with this premarital agreement the way it is. Even though we worked out some of the things, we'd go back in, my attorney would go back in, we'd ask for something like, I want the house if he dies before me. And they put in there, well, on the final one we did, it said, if I'm still alive 30 days after he passes, then the house will go to me. I mean, even that feels kind of so crazy saying it out loud right now. But anytime they would change something, they go back and put something else back the way it was originally, which was nothing. So already, and we're going to a therapist for premarital counseling during this time too. And the financial stuff is he'll take care of everything. Everything's in his name. I don't get anything. There's no mention of an allowance. There's no mention of anything. So guys, just stuck. I just can't even, like, my heart right now, just talking about it and going back there was such a terrible time. So, and we're going back and forth. And then with the attorneys, I didn't have assets, and my attorney is like, well, hey, put your ring on there. So I was like, really? She's like, yeah, you're wearing it. I have it on mine. Everyone I know has their ring on there for their assets. So I go to him and I said, hey, I need to know how much the ring is worth to put on the assets. And he's like, just don't put it on there. And I was like, no, I'm going to put it on there. And he was like, no, just don't put it on there. And that was really the breaking point for me with push and pause. I was like, hey, I want to push pause on the wedding. Let's enjoy the engagement party, which I did not, but let's enjoy the engagement party and let's get back on this afterwards. Crazy. I had friends flying in that I was actually going to ask them to be my bridesmaids at our wedding. I'd bought all this little stuff for them. And that was when the airlines had that glitch where they had to ground all the flights. So my friends were stuck in Atlanta and couldn't even get here, which ended up being a huge blessing, right? Because they would have gotten here and it was just kind of a crap show. Anyways, I hadn't been drinking for a while. This is a whole other thing. He was like blaming my drinking on issues that we were having. So I quit drinking. And then he said he had quit drinking too, but he came late to the engagement party, shows up, goes right to his friend, chugs like his friend's drink, gets another drink, and he's drinking, and like we're not even supposed to be drinking. So that goes on for a little bit, and I'm just enjoying time with my one friend that did get to come in and spend the night with me. I'm enjoying my time with her and a couple other guests that I have there. The rest are his friends, and some are mine, and I know a few of them. One of his friends came to me. She's like, what's going on? I was like, I pushed pause. The premarital agreement was crap. And she's like, good for you. So that was that. That's on July 20th. That's over. We start talking about the premarital agreement again. But I'm just like, if I can't put the ring on there, I'm not going to sign it. And we're just kind of at a standstill. So my son was going back to South Carolina for school, and it was the end of summer. And I told him, I was like, listen, I want to take him back to school by myself and have that time to just think about everything and digest what's going on. And he was so mad at me. He broke things off with me over a text. I was like, okay. So that was that. But then I took my son back to school and had so much time, like my nervous system started regulating and I was starting to see clearly and I was starting to feel better because I wasn't in his presence, which I didn't really realize how damaging it was to be in his presence. So I get back and I go straight to an Airbnb. I wasn't going to go back to his house. And then it starts. He's like, he calls and he's like, I really think you have borderline personality disorder. I think you should see a psychiatrist. You need to get some help. And I really was like, you know what? I might have this thing. I start researching it. I was like, I don't know. I could have it. I've had several marriages that ended in divorce, clearly. And I always end up with the same kind of situation. They've got addictions. Almost all of them had sex addictions, drug addictions, alcoholic, all these things. And with this latest one, because of who he is in the public's eye and who his friends are, and he always held on that. And I didn't understand it until now why he would do that. He was like, well, my friend's so and so, well, my friend's this, and who are your friends? And kind of like belittling my friends and, secluded me and separated me from my friends. And looking back, I can see everything so vividly throughout the whole 5 years. So, anyways, he's telling me this. I'm like, you know what? I've been wanting to go to the Bridge to Recovery for a couple years now. We know a couple people collectively, one person in his family that had gone for childhood trauma, and that's what I needed. I had been sexually abused from 3 to 6. My mom gave me away to my aunt and uncle when I was 3 years old, and I lived with them, and they were mom and dad, and it was my uncle there that sexually abused me alongside my cousin. And so I had all these things that I wanted to work through because I knew there were some things there, especially because I keep ending up with the same kind of person, just a different name. It was so crazy. But this last one, he was like, well, he's telling me he's better than everyone that I've been with because he's successful and who he knows. And he threw so and so a fundraising party at his house. And, I really don't care that your house was 8,000 square foot. I really don't care who that is. He had nothing to stand on his own. Like, we would go to church, but in the beginning, he's taking me out, getting me drunk and taking me home and having sex with me, but telling me what a great Christian he is. And then the more I'm going to church, the more convicted I'm getting, and the more I'm really looking to the Lord, and I am convicted. I don't want to have sex with him anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. All these things. And then he started using those against me. It just was a vicious cycle. Like, I was so used to living in survival mode and being with people like this that I would doubt myself, even though I knew what was right. But the damage, I feel like there's brain damage and there's illness like wrapped up into this covert narcissism, and people on the outside can't even see what this person is like on the inside. It is absolutely nuts. How different, how many, I'm going to save some of this stuff for another episode because I'm going to wrap this into, so I was leaving to go to the Bridge to Recovery. Well, first I went to the psychiatrist, and she goes through the borderline personality disorder stuff. And at the end, she's like, you don't have a personality disorder. You might have insert the person's name disorder. And I kind of just giggled and I said, well, that sounds about right. Okay, thank you. Like, it was a relief. So there I was, like, ready to go to the Bridge to Recovery. He's willing to pay for it because clearly something's wrong with me. And I go. And before I leave, I was like, hey, I need to borrow money. So when I come out of that, it was a 4-week program I had signed up for. So when I come out of that, I can take care of myself for a month or two. And at first, he was like, oh, okay. And then when I was going to get the checks, he wanted me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I was like, well, I'm not signing one. So I guess I'm not going to go to the Bridge. Like, what are we signing non-disclosure for? I'm a human. We're not in business. And so Anyways, he ended up he's like, never mind, reverse that, pretend like I didn't say it. And he gave me the checks and I went on about my business. I went to the woods of Kentucky. I ended up staying 6 weeks. It was phenomenal. I learned so much about myself. I went through my trauma tree. It was crazy. Like looking at it through the lens of the therapists and the counselors and all the experiential work we did, it was crazy to put it all down, to put it on paper. It's up on the wall. You see all the trauma that you went through, and you can go back to those places, to that little girl that was so wounded from all these people abusing her as a child. There's no way I could be normal and be in a great relationship because my life, there was nobody that shared, that exemplified that for me, that showed me that what I do matters, how I feel matters, that I have a voice. I learned that I don't have to produce. I don't have to be a perfectionist to be loved. I don't have to be constantly working to be loved. I don't have to put other people's needs in front of my own to be loved. And neither do you, ladies. Neither do you.
La 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 la. Simple strategies to break free from codependency.
Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave a review for the show on Apple Podcasts? It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. I look forward to connecting here next week. I'll be sharing more strategies to help you break free from codependency.